Hello, and welcome back to the Marketing Brief. I am your host, Brian Aquan. This is the podcast where we briefly touch on subjects in marketing. And we have industry experts that join us. And today we are very happy to be joined by Jacob Zucker. Jacob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Jacob Zucker. I reside in New York City, and I have about 14 to 15 years in the marketing industry, focusing on experiential activations, partnerships, sponsorships, content, digital, and working for big brands across the lifestyle, luxury, hospitality, and financial services industries.
Amazing. Awesome experience. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you again.
Yeah, that really, one of the subjects I've been writing a lot about is community. Us at Aquan Consulting, that's my consulting company, we've identified three macro trends for 2026. We're looking at authenticity, we're looking at community, which also includes like people, actual people in real life, and then value as we have the challenges of the 2026 economy. So maybe community is a good place to start since you have an events background. How are you viewing community and events in 2026 right now?
Well, I think in lieu of what's been happening in a post-COVID world, along with, let's be real, politically and economically, and the way digital has taken over a lot of people's lives, I think there's a very big push now to have in-person live event experiences. And I've also been noticing that across job boards. There's been a huge surge in event roles and companies really hiring for event professionals to really drive that in-person strategy. One thing that we were talking briefly about before recording was there's a report by Freeman that came out last year that said 95% of people trust a brand after they attend an in-person live experience, and then
Yeah.
87% of people have an action post the event, whether it be go to the website, look up the brand, and really start engaging with the product. And I think brands really now want to drive that community aspect where they're creating connectivity with people along with driving retention rates and having new client generation and really having that whole sales cycle funnel for when the client first experiences the brand to having them as a recurring client as well.
Yeah, I love that take. Yeah, I agree with you. I know we're in a post-COVID world. It's kind of like nebulous how long we've been post-COVID. It kind of
Mhm.
depends on who you ask, but I think we're still in that space of like uh, people are still getting out there again after being in their houses for so long.
Right.
We're still forming those groups. We might have whittled down our friend groups a little bit, and now maybe we're expanding them again. Excuse me, but that's when I think about community, like as a marketer, that is a grassroots aspect of community. Is if you can get people to form groups on their own.
When I switched into the hospitality industry, before even, let's say, this became a buzzword, right? When you're
Yeah.
dealing with membership services, right there, you're already generating a community, right? You're trying to
Yes.
say to people, besides, them paying an annual fee, that you are now part of this like entity and unit of individuals that are either similar to you, have the same passion points, are really motivated by the same things, and also by having that diversity, right? We're all a little different here and there, but there's some type of unifying factor that makes people feel compelled to be part of this group. And I think that was really great when I joined the hospitality industry because, as you continue working in the space, you really find different niches of communities across the profession, right? Whether it be people who are
Mhm.
interested in food, whether it's nightlife, whether it's well-being, and hospitality has that ability to create such a great unit between those divisions and then even have it holistically, right? How can you bind all those people into one big unifying moment? And then
Yeah.
even at my financial services background, a lot of these heritage banks are looking for ways to connect their clients, whether it be, sports focused, whether it be entertainment, whether it be fine dining, right, or culinary, and really creating memorable experiences for the clients because let's be real, old ways of banking are gone, right? So these
Mhm.
financial services companies know that people nowadays can just pick up their cash and go to another platform, whether it be digital, right, whether it be another broker, whether it be another financial advisor, and they're thinking of ways to keep people with their money.
Yeah, thank you for those examples. That's great. When I think about community, I think a big part of it is people, right? Like actually physically being with people. And that's when I think about external versus internal, like within an organization, who are the people that you have and you trust to run the technology, to bring in the right technology, to learn AI. I was struck by Pinterest today announced that they were doing layoffs and they in their announcement announced
It's a new one
that
anymore. Okay,
yeah,
interesting. Yep.
In the
And that was
announcement, also, they stated that they were going to replace people with AI, which I always think is like, that's the greatest fear of all employees, right? And then
Mhm.
also, very short sighted, I think, on what a lot of companies are actually capable of doing, right? Just replacing people with AI. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that. I immediately think about it this way. You need people to institute AI and technology within your organization, right? It doesn't work on its own. You need people to bring it in, to make sense of it, to analyze it. It should be something that makes your job easier, that makes it, eliminates friction within your daily opportunities. But how are you kind of looking at AI adoption within organizations right now?
I think the last 3 to 4 years, right, people have been really trying to grasp how the technology is going to impact one organization as a whole, and then obviously by division, right? So I think like the last, I would say 22 and 23, you were hearing about knowledge and education about the product, and then I think 24 to 25 to now is how are we really implementing
Yeah,
right? And I've been having this conversation with a lot of other marketers, right? Because marketing, as you know, as a profession is very fast paced. Things evolve very quickly nowadays. It's no longer like what's going to happen 5 years or 10 years, right? It's now we're on like a very year to year basis on
yeah,
adapting skill sets. How are people interacting with the brands that you're working with? And also how is technology, whether advancing or disadvantaging you, right? How you're connected to consumers. So I think now what's happening is implementation of AI, and then you're hearing how a lot of the AI agents can be integrated across various business silos and also for individual employees, right? With Morgan Stanley, for example, they were rolling out MSAI Assistant when I was there, and they were trying that platform to even implementing AI in various events that they were trying to do, right? So
yeah.
and I'm sure this is happening across a lot of the financial services banks and even, tech companies, etc. So I
Hmm.
but going back to your point about the people component, I mean, look at Klarna, right? Klarna did that
Yeah,
700-person layoff, and then the CEO regrets doing that. Right? So we all know that human involvement and human touch is not going to be replaceable at all by any type of
no,
technology advancement, right?
yeah,
So that being said,
I agree.
um, I think in the marketing silo, we were discussing this. I think what's going to be the issue is you're always going to have a head, right? You may have then your subheads of your content, your digital, your social, etc. But then what's going to happen to the middle to entry level positions?
Yeah,
Is that going to be replaced by AI? How lean are those teams going to be? Because you and I both know we've been hearing entry level jobs are very harder now for college
yeah,
graduates, right?
yeah,
So if you're in that age group, how are you going to be breaking in now, especially in the marketing industry? If it's say 5 years, AI could be doing a lot of entry level work to even mid level work. So I think that's
yes.
the big question in terms of the human resources analysis.
Yeah, agree with you. So, a couple points you brought up, I really love agentic agents. I think this is the year that we figure out if it works or not, right? Because I think a lot of businesses are really putting the pedal down on like, we'll replace it with an agent. We'll replace it with an agent. The agent can buy the media. The agent can build the creative, right? So, I think we're going to find out if that actually works. And the other thing, experience is so important here, right? So I use AI a lot in what I do. I use AI for this podcast. I use AI in my research, right? But I have experience that helps me make sense of what I'm getting out of there, right? And I've used this example before, but I think of AI as my sous chef. I'm still the chef, I'm still making the meal, but they're running and getting the ingredients. They're telling me about different flavors. Hey, this is who the meal's for. This is what they like. It's all of these different things that are now at my fingertips. But ultimately, you still need someone with experience who's making decisions, who's analyzing the data that they're getting, and
Correct.
is not just regurgitating what's coming out of the robots, coming out of the machine.
Right.
So you make that point about entry level. That is gets even tougher. I think it gets even tougher to break into certainly marketing when a lot of entry level positions might be taken over by agents or might be just taken over by technology, rendering it not a position anymore. Is that what you were thinking about when you were thinking about how tough it is to break in from the entry level?
Yeah, because even, like again, I remember I think I told you, I graduated from Fordham with my MBA 2, 3 years ago at this point, and I have students contacting me, consistently asking like, how do I break into this? How do I break into that? And I feel
Yeah,
like even 4 years ago, I had more of like a strategical answer for these people, how to like figure out. But now it's like who knows what the head count's going to be on a lot of these teams. But then that brings up the other interesting point where it goes back to networking, right?
Yeah,
Are you going to be proving your value through an in-person connection to say I deserve a spot on the
sure.
team?
Yeah. I think about when I broke into business, which was way back in 1999. But digital media was becoming a thing. It
Right,
wasn't before. And one
right.
of the things I had as an advantage is I knew how to email, right? I knew how to use web crawler and Lycos and like these websites,
Hmm.
which was like, okay, as a young person, that was important to marketers in certain on certain accounts, right? Where I could bring in and be like, okay, this kid knows actually how to use that. So I think that's probably where you lean. If you are graduating from college or you're coming out of an MBA program, you should be well versed in AI and the capabilities so that you can bring that forward as quote unquote an advantage in the workplace.
Right. I think the other thing too is I realized after going through school at such a, later stage in life is you can't shy away from numbers. I think there's a lot of people in marketing who want to do the flash in marketing versus the
Hmm.
actual science of marketing. And I got to admit, that's what led me to go back and get my MBA because I
Yeah.
felt like you and I both know if you're only exposed to certain work environments, right, you're
Yeah.
not going to be really understanding the full cycle of what you're actually doing. And I think when
Hmm.
COVID happened, that was my avenue to really learn what I was doing as my profession. I was just like executing for so long, right? That I didn't have like the educational knowledge. And I think going to school, especially let's be real, at a more adult age, where I actually cared about the education than in college, I actually put more effort into it. So I really immersed myself in Fordham's program and Fordham's classes and clubs and really got to understand why marketing, what is marketing, and how it impacts our people's everyday lives.
Nice. I like that. Awesome. Well, I always like to try and get positive here and ask you just a question about what is exciting you right now. It could be in your personal life, it can be in your job, in the consulting that you're doing, and the work that you've done. But is there something that gets you excited right now?
I mean, I love to travel. I
Great.
mean, it may sound a little cliche nowadays, but I broke into the hospitality space because I had a passion for like seeing the world and really embracing the unfamiliar, right? I think over the years of doing this, I've realized how blessed I am to see as many countries as I have because I think, I feel like America people do quote travel, but like not in a very global scale like other countries do, right? So I'm very lucky where I have had the ability to go to various places and continents around the world and see different cultures and different interactions with people. And I feel like when you come back home and you kind of like, and that part of the trip where it ends, but then the first month, second month go by,
Yeah.
right, after the trip, and then you kind of like reflect on what you've done, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's where you change as a person. And I think travel does that very well for people, and it breaks people out of their comfort zone because some people just stay so sequestered for so long, and then I feel like a good trip gets you out of that, gets you out of
I
that.
agree. Do you have any travel planned?
God, that's so funny you said that. So I was thinking about this. I want to do Bhutan. I heard
Yeah.
Bhutan is
Mountainous.
really, I'm very into like up and coming markets, right? I
Hmm.
think what's really great thing going back to like a little bit of the marketing angle, right? I'm really very intrigued by when one hotel group opens a new property and what is the marketing strategy behind that new opening, right?
Hmm.
I also very into hotel design. I think you and I know hotel industry has gotten very either it's very high end, right? Very luxury product, or it's
Yeah.
like, very economical, right? The middle ground has kind of gotten diffused. And I
Yeah.
think either people really want to try for that aspirational trip these days, or they're okay doing economical and spending their money on more like the actual experiential trip components of their vacation or business
Yeah.
trip, right?
I mean, you
So
are describing
Bhutan
the
is one of those
K-shaped economy right there.
right, and I think Bhutan is one of those economies that's like rising up and really showing growth. And I would love to do so. Luckily, I stayed at Four Seasons has been one of my longstanding partners, and in the room they had a brochure for their Palau Explorer, and it's like they're one of their last yachts that takes you because like there's a new yacht whole product, but this is actually like a very specific boat that
Yeah.
takes you around Palau and Micronesia, and
Wow.
it looks absolutely stunning, and I feel like that would be a very cool experience to do at some point.
Nice. Well, I hope you get to do that.
Yeah, you and me
Well,
both.
thank you so much for joining us on the marketing brief, Jacob Zucker. If people need to get in touch with you, is LinkedIn the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, just you type my name and find me. I'm also available on my website, jacobzucker.com,
Nice.
and my email is just jz@jacobzucker.com.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we have some listeners who want to reach out and talk to you.
I
It was very
appreciate it.
nice to have you on the pod. Thank you for joining us today, Jacob.
Thank you for having me, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.